chairs. All right, good morning, everyone. It's 10:32. We'll call the meeting to order of the Development Committee of September 3rd. And roll call, please.
Member Krajewski. Member Chaplin. Here. Member Guston. Member Ozog.
Here.
Member Rutledge.
Here.
Chair Tornatori.
Here. And welcome, Member Childers. Do we have any public comment?
No.
We're on the minutes approval. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of
So
August
moved.
20th, 2024. Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. I'll entertain a motion to approve the Joint Development and Environmental Committee minutes
So
of
moved.
Tuesday, August 20th, 2020.
Second.
Motion second. Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Informational, I'll entertain a motion to receive and place on file 24-2352, an approval of a contract purchase order to Wilson
moved.
Ford Inc. for a 2024 Ford Bronco. Motion is second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll entertain a motion to receive and place on file 24-2353, the fiscal year 25 building and zoning budget presentation.
Second. Or so moved.
Motion. And a second. Jim, want to hit us with anything?
Well, we do have a PowerPoint, right?
Yes.
If we can run through that real quick with
You
you.
got a PowerPoint.
So first, I do want to apologize. I sent everybody the spreadsheets on Friday. And when we kept reviewing them, we kept looking at and realizing the last column was cut off. And I thought it was the way I was printing it. It turns out when I received them, it was cut off. So once I realized that, I reissued it and sent that back to you. So I unfortunately bombarded you at the last minute on a Friday with 2 rounds of emails. So this is just kind of the basic summary PowerPoint we do every year for the department. So this is our kind of missions and goals. I did want to point out, the real change in here is that environmental is not part of our department any longer. As part of the big change up with facilities, the environmental division moved into the facilities department because they're now a standalone. Tim's director, they've taken over. So it seemed like with all the stuff that Joy and Austin have been doing around the campus, it made more sense to have them be part of that. They've got a much bigger group of assets that they can choose from, rather than asking another department to help you all the time. Now you're actually in that department and you're working together. It's a better collaboration for them. We do have 31 employees. We are currently posting for the 31st. It's a new zoning coordinator position, just get more staff. Before the 08 recession, we were 32 people, and then by the time it ended, we were 24. So the workload increased immediately, and now we're finally getting back to having the staffing that we would have had years ago to try and keep up with it. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of a recap of some of the responsibilities. The Planning and Zoning Division does a ton. They do all of our zoning entitlements. They do the CRS. They're doing the IDA grants. They're kind of the lead with community services for the ad hoc committee, in particular housing right now. Building, we just do what we do. We do all the permitting in the unincorporated areas, coordinate with fire department, health departments. We do liquor license inspections on behalf of the county. We've taken on the gaming program this year, so we're doing the gaming inspections and that program as well. Next slide. This is kind of a summary of where we are as a look back on the last few years. And then this is up through July. So you can see that the trends in permitting, we pretty much stay in about the same place all the time. The upper 3,000s to low to, I guess, almost mid 4,000s, 2019. The call center we only have 3 people in a call center, a supervisor. They do all the scheduling for the whole department. They take all the calls that come in. We get a lot of calls for other departments, particularly stormwater, just because everybody's calling our group. We're all located together. They schedule all the inspections, so they do a lot. Inspection wise, again, pretty consistent, 17 to 18,000 inspections. That includes building inspectors and code enforcement between the two of them. The customers is really kind of where our permit techs work. Adjudication cases, we're averaging generally over 300. Those are new cases. It doesn't count the continuations. We have a lot of continuances that occur. Somebody can't be there. They're waiting for their attorney. So we average about, what do you think, Jessica, about 25 cases a month? And then we usually on the agenda have about 35 to 40 with the continuances. So the Zoning Board of Appeals is doing really well. A lot of that is the ZHO. When Paul put that position in place, it's been phenomenal. Jessica is a big part of that. And they'll actually hear 5 cases at a time instead of the ZBA generally only hears 1 case a night. So huge volume, able to do that. The FOIA requests, Eileen handles those pretty much entirely. So we still get quite a few of those. Everybody's looking for some sort of record. And the housing permits are a little down this year. They were really large in 21 and 22 because of the Pulte subdivision in West Chicago. We put in a brand new subdivision, 84 homes, and they busted them off 2 years. So we saw a huge increase in those 2 years. If you take that 84 out, it generally runs in the 60s for just new houses. So that's not too bad. I think with the number of people we have, we do pretty well. Could I have the next one, please? So this is just kind of our special things that we have going on, the biggest things happening right now. So it's the ad hoc housing committee. The Ground Solutions Network is part of that. We just had, like I mentioned previously, we've taken on video gaming. That's a new program that we're doing this year. So we will be running through doing the inspections on those properties, the same as we do with the liquor license. And it allows us to get another look at what they're doing, making sure they're compliant with our ordinance and the state ordinance. And then the Clean and Lean program and the IDA grant that they got the Strong Communities grant, which helps us boost the effectiveness of the Clean and Lean program. Next slide, please. So these are our revenue projections, kind of where we have been in 23, 24 is kind of, we went through our projections with David Santana in finance a week ago, as I was putting this together. So it's slightly different from the document that I sent out. The one we sent out was the ask we had way back in May. We really didn't know how things were going to shake out for the year. So we've lowered some of the projections and we've lowered some of the request as well. It's not as high as the previous document. So can anticipate doing pretty well with building permits. We believe there'll be a couple of big projects that come online next year that we don't have right now. So we think that'll be a big part of it. The zero in the operating service fee, that is the environmental division. That's Joy's Illinois EPA grants and the tipping fees that we get from West Chicago. So that goes with her to the facilities budget. Other than that, it's not a whole lot different from what we've been asking for in the last few years. The income investment is the number we get from the 294 is anticipated for this year. We get that from finance and they anticipate 202 next year. And then miscellaneous revenue, the general fund transfer.
The transfer from general fund, I think that was in regards to the
Environment.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, so again, that's going away to facilities.
Yeah.
It's going.
It was the environmental we used to take for, I believe it was their salaries more or less.
There's,
It
well, the
was-
funding for the project.
This is coming in.
Yeah, we have that as a
This
reserve.
is revenue.
On the revenue side, I'm sorry. This might have been the holdover from the ad hoc housing solutions. The 2.5 million, instead of it being in a separate account originally, got transferred into this and we moved it back to that other fund.
Move it back. It was
Yeah,
coming in.
sorry. It originally came into the building and zoning department's budget. It was moved into that ad hoc housing solutions fund.
This is saying we're getting money from the general fund into here.
I'm sorry, there's a glare. I can't see this. I
Revenue
apologize.
coming in. We're getting 333,000 into.
That might just be a
That's
typo.
the carryover from Clean and Lean,
Yeah.
That's the, I'm sorry.
the carryover from Clean and Lean.
Oh.
Yes, okay.
From
It's not the entrance center, right? It's the,
No, it's just the funds we had left over.
so
from
that, yeah,
24.
okay. Yes, it's the leftover funds of the Clean and Lean program for budgeted this year into the fund. I'll get you the more detailed accounting. That's fine.
Send it.
Yeah. I'll do the whole.
Anybody have any, if we have, I want to finish your presentation and then we'll go through.
Can we go to the next slide? Oh, hopefully this will pass.
Should. We went through this last week.
I know, so I think the biggest thing, the capital in here is probably the biggest change. That's the 125. That's 3 new vehicles. Those were scheduled with DOT. The other contractual items and commodities are pretty much the same, and the salary lines a little bit higher. We've got the headcount that we're filling and the salary line for Joy and Austin, so. And then it also includes the salary increases in COLA and everything else that goes in annual increase. Next slide. And then this is just kind of the main, it's the higher end expenses that we have for the most part, other than just normal day-to-day operations. Again, this is the 3 vehicles. We added one this year. That was the item on the agenda, the Bronco that we just had. That one had a significant engine failure. It was scheduled for replacement in 2026 and it didn't make it. And then on top of that, it's the 3 new cars. So we'll be getting one right away. And we've already gotten it. We got it just last week. And then the 3 for next year. Our standard IT expenses, those are fairly high for us. And then the indirect costs is gone up from 240 last year to anticipated 278 this year and another 285 next year. So that's really our biggest things that hit us other than the day-to-day operations. I think that's it.
Any questions, Jim? Yes.
Yeah, I think just in that real quick slide, I think at like 4.6, but I'm looking at, I think it's the budget that was sent out to us. It's like 4.78. It's different than that number on there.
It is, and I had touched on that when we first started. The reason is that was the anticipated that we sent out way back in May when we weren't sure how everything was going to shake out. We went through the whole budget line by line with David Santana, and we've reduced what we anticipate coming in for the year and our expenses for next
Just
year.
the one that really jumped out at me was contractual services. And, you know, we go back the last 5 years, we spent 100 grand, then we spent 385,000 when we budgeted 500, then we spent 460 when we budgeted 600. And then 2 years ago, we spent 455 when we budgeted 830,000. And then this year, we have 873 budgeted, but we've only spent 162. And now we're asking for 900,000. This thing seems like it's way over these contractual services from what we ever use. The most we've ever spent in the last 5 years is 455,000, but we've been budgeting 800, 900,000 a year. So it's the line, whatever, the 5380s. Contractual service. I mean, it just seems like we're never spending anywhere near what we budget for that, to the tune of several $100,000.
Okay, so we,
Member Krajewski, are you talking one particular line in general, or are you just talking contractual overall?
Well, it's the total, right? Other contractual services. So I assume that would be overall. And, you know, this last year we budgeted 873, we're only at 162,000. We're asking now for 928. Same thing, you know, 2 years ago, we spent 450 when we budgeted 830. That was a $500,000. We've had these huge surpluses.
Can you show me which line you're talking about? I'm sorry, sir.
This is, the building zoning, services.
Contractual up here overall? Are you just talking the whole
Yeah, right here.
unit?
So 109. 93,
Okay, so, yeah,
And then we only had 160 to date, now we're at 876.
it's, okay,
I mean,
I apologize, we were in our last meeting, so I didn't
I
have
mean,
my
this
stuff
is,
with me, that's my
these are
fault.
the easy ones that just jump right out. It's just.
Sure, some of this in here, I know we had some promotional lines that went down, but that was nothing.
I'm just looking at the totals, not
Yeah.
care about but I mean, we've never gone anywhere and it's most here.
So, okay, here, I can actually talk to that point at least. That is where, as Jim just indicated, we did go through with finance and we reduced our actuals. So that's where you saw that 164,000 that Jim, you're talking 4.6 versus what, 4.7? So we did go through and we reduced all of it to the appropriate
I mean,
actuals.
this one should go down, I mean, I would say no more than $500,000, you never spend any more than $500,000, we're at 928,000.
And we continue to go through, look at the actuals, to your point, as after you started inquiring of those questions, we intentionally sat down and went through and reworked it. We will send an updated in regards to that, as we indicated in JPS today about the budget of the sheriff, when you were asking about that. Again, some of these will be in the chair's recommended budget.
I mean, we've been asking, I just don't understand how they don't get to us here when we're going over this. And I'll just direct that to our finance chair, we're starting to get budgets here that we're looking at, and then everybody's coming to us saying something different, and I don't even know what the difference is.
That's how they're spending them. I guess they're gonna come back, like they said in JPS, when the chair submits her budget, they'll show all the adjustments.
I mean, Jason, I mean.
I don't know if it's
So,
because of the open gov.
Yeah,
Is-
so okay, here, let me back up for 1 second with that very good question. So what it is initially with OpenGov, how we set it up with the parameters based off your recommendation, how you want it, we wanted to be consistent.
Right.
The only way to make it consistent, we had to pick that fixed point, so everybody could see everything and be
That's
consistent
the
straight
actual.
through.
6 points actual, that's fine, it's 8 months. But this last column, the actual.
The
budget-
FY 25 budget
Yeah,
request,
What budget request, it should be whatever we're talking about here.
again, it's what was submitted for the budget,
in May.
in May, yes, so
But
that's how, well, that's how we had to
That
do it.
number today.
But then the column is showing what was requested. What we had to show was the actual reductions we had to do. And I mean, that's what we've anticipated, or that's what,
So whoever comes to us, just give us what to, I don't care if it was in May or now.
So,
All right,
excuse me.
let's, hold on. I think Brian's point here, looking at it from an overview, is that not only in this budget, but so many that we're seeing, the anticipated budget is much greater than we've ever used in the past. So why are we doing that? Why is it being submitted like that? And then I'm presuming that then when the chair submits her budget, gonna get slashed to what it should be. So is your question, why don't we do it from the get-go as opposed to waiting for the chair to do it?
Yeah.
That
It should have
I
never
think
been
is
put
your
in to
question.
begin with, without a legitimate reason. And
All right,
it got put in there, now.
So let's
I'm not
let
gonna
the
discuss
finance
that.
chair,
I'm not
she
sure.
might have an
I
answer.
might have an answer, but so the departments submit their budget. Then finance goes, they get all of them in, then it's my understanding finance goes back. And then you guys drill down on the numbers, but whatever reason, I don't know if it is OpenGov. I don't know why the reason is that we didn't get the updated.
you know what,
Procedures,
that I
you know,
can't,
updated
that I
numbers. I
can't
don't know
speak
why we
to.
didn't get the
I
updated
can't
numbers,
speak
but
to
I
it, but
know
I'll
that-
get an answer to you on that.
That they're working with the finance department to drill down on those numbers. But we're getting what was originally submitted instead of the final.
I'm gonna give. Building and zoning, as we know, we did a restructuring 2 months ago when I started overseeing. I went through the budget with them and I had some suggestions, and that wouldn't have been reflected on that May submitted. So I will take some responsibility that what our final desire has some changes based off of what I saw. Brian, to your point of some of the actuals and things like
Beginning
that.
point, even prior to May, is every department should have already been doing this. This just jumps out to anybody. I just walked in and pulled it up in 2 seconds, see it. And so that should jump out before it even gets submitted to the county. And that's the thing we were trying to get at finance, is telling all the departments and elected officials, go through there. We had that big argument with Trap, how it's, Cindy Cahill brought it up and so it shouldn't even have got to begin with. Now it gets there, then finance is looking at it, trying to drill back, and then, our chair's gonna do it. But it just seems to me
Well, I think this is you're right. This is something from a policy standpoint we have to come up with when budgets are being submitted, because if you're asking for 800,000 for travel and you're only spending 300,000, then you've got a balloon budget, which
I just know that
makes no
I looked
sense.
at all this stuff the last 2 nights, and then I
Yes.
come in here and it's a different thing. And I don't even know which lines were cut and what.
Sure.
I,
And we will send an updated based off that again. That's not a problem.
Okay, Member Guston, you had a
Thank
question?
you. 200,000 on your IT, thank you. Quick question though. I know that, in the past, we had looked to some of those programs to be more streamlining and be more user-friendly. So if somebody from staff sends a note to a customer or developer and says, hey, staff needs this, right? But yet when they respond, they have to respond to a general funnel. And then they never know if their response was accepted, denied, modified, or whatever. So I'm just hoping that we can have a future conversation about making sure whatever programs we have are customer friendly and identifies what staffer is asking the question and how that customer can get a hold of that staffer to make sure they understand the question.
We continue to improve that and work on that. I don't
You're
disagree with
coming in
you.
on the tail end of that one,
Yeah.
but thank you.
Yeah, that is a concern that was brought to our attention and something we're working on.
Any other questions on the budget? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to receive and place on file the budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. God bless you. I'm moving on to regulatory. I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 57-24 and ordinance amending chapter 34. For administrative adjudication. Motion and a second. Paul, is this you? And you want to just give us a brief, or Jim? Okay,
Sure.
the brief.
So it's a couple things. We've had the adjudication program now since 2011. This is the first time we've taken a look back at it to see what changes need to be made in the ordinance. So we had Connor review it. He gave us a struck version and a clean version, which is in the packet. One of the things that has stuck out to us is we have a lot of properties that go through the entire program. There is a lien placed on the property. Those liens expire after 8 years, and historically, we've only received money off that lien if there's a sale of the house. So what we would like to propose in this update is that we actually go after those liens and collect them. We feel that there's a little over $1.1 million in outstanding liens. The liens only last, like I said, for 8 years. After 8 years, they expire. We can revive them. There's a process we have to go through. The hearing officer has to hear the lien, issue an order to us. We'll notify the owner of the property that there's a lien against your property. It's been revived. You still owe us the money. We would work with the state's attorney's office to hire a special assistant state's attorney to do the collections. We would have to probably do an RFP with that and then negotiate what their salary of it would be. They would typically, 20 to 30% is what they charge.
Yeah.
That's on top of the amount that's owed, so we would get the full value of the lien. The property owner would be responsible for paying the additional cost.
And I want to just clarify one thing with that. It'd be the state's attorney's office who has to select that because it's an attorney, it's a special assistant. So they would determine whom would be the best to collect those funds.
Okay, and my question on this, Jim and I, you've talked about this. When you say lien, we're actually placing a lien, filing it with the recorder's office, and keeping it. Then why are we waiting 8 years to not foreclose on those things?
Because we didn't have anything in place to do it. And historically, if we've got significant problems with a property that's gone through the process multiple times, we take them to the courthouse and Connor prosecutes them over there for us. So this is the most egregious are being collected. We've got some property owners that have been through the process a number of times.
So how is this gonna change?
Well, this would be if you just are in there, even if you have a default judgment because you didn't show up for your hearing, you'd still come after your lien. Might only be a couple $100, but it's money due and owed to the county, so we would go after it and try and explain those.
Member Turner, or Chair Turner, also, it just adds another tool to our toolbox. I mean, you're right. The lien aspect, we do need to foreclose. However, I think some properties, there may not have been an appetite to foreclose on some of those properties for a $200 lien or something along those lines. So what we would hope to do by having a collection agency is making it to where it's another avenue to collect those funds and not have to wait for the
Okay,
lien.
I don't think it's a bad idea, I just don't. Well, we have foreclosed on liens, right? When the amount is worth it.
No, well, what we have done in the past is if we had a case like that, we would actually take it through court and the court would order them to make the payments. So in that regard, I guess we have.
Yeah, but if people don't make payments and you've got a lien on someone's property, only where you're gonna collect that money is either when they sell the property, at which point you're gonna have to get it paid off so they can give you clear title, or go to court, you foreclose on the lien, and a judge, and you ultimately take title to the property subject to the other liens. Now, I know it's a cumbersome process. You're not gonna do it for $200, but I mean, banks do it all the time.
It is something we continue, we're looking at as we're starting. Again, this is, it's a great extra tool for us, at least on the collection end. And then also it makes it to where maybe we don't have to wait for that lien process as well. But you're right, something of looking at is foreclosure, but I don't know that there was an appetite for that. There may be one more now today.
Yeah. Did you? Yes, sure.
Thank you, Chair. So are these fines, court fees? What exactly are we foreclosing on?
So these would be cases that have gone through the adjudication hearing process, and the judge has agreed that we've met our obligations and our standards, and he has issued a fine to the property owner for, being liable for whatever the violation was. Could be they built a new shed, they were working without a permit. But sometimes they don't show up for court, and we still have a hearing if we've got service, and then there's a default judgment against them. So it's those that they have an appeals process. Once the appeal time is extended and it's lapsed, we lien the property for whatever that amount is.
So what's that time frame? And then you talked about them expiring after 8 years. I guess my question is, what are we doing to get them to comply before we get to that expiration?
So typically, a lot of these are agreed orders where they've agreed to do something and they haven't done it, or again, it's a case where they didn't show up. There's continued violation, action on the property. So they'll receive another violation notice. And then we continue to go after them in that regard. So we don't just stop when we have a lien. We continue to prosecute them and go after them to try and get compliance.
And I'm presuming that this new toolbox is gonna be used for the liens that are on the clean and lean program as well.
As well, yeah, anybody who's got a lien in the system.
It's a collection tool. If somebody doesn't pay, they've got a piece of property, that's the only leverage you've got.
Sure.
So, okay, did we vote on that one?
No.
Okay, all is in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, motion carries. Any old business? Any new business?